Hey, welcome back to the Ace Football Academy. I am Coach Dunham, joined alongside Coach Hamilton. Coach, we, as always, are always talking off camera, and we said, stop talking, hit that record button.
Kind of at the same time.
And let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
So, tonight, Coach Hamilton was describing some things have occurred in the past with some of his teams, commitment issues, and parents starting to cause some problems or hearing whatever it may be, whatever team it was. And my first response was, this is why I believe in coach rotations. We have a thing in our club where we have a lot of coaches that remain with one team for years, and there's nothing wrong with it. It can work. There will be some growing pains after a while, but in my perspective, I like the idea of keeping everybody on their toes, which means if I come to your practice one day, are the players going to be like, oh yeah, Coach Dunham? No, they're going to be like, who is this guy? Oh, I better is he evaluating me? Am I losing my starting position? Do my parents know this guy?
Right.
So Coach, we talked about this off camera a little bit. Would there ever be a time where you feel like it's time to move off and say, yeah, it's time for another coach to come in? Not because you don't want to be there, not because you don't like somebody, but maybe it's just time for a change.
When you pose it like that, the answer is, of course, yes, 100%, right? Because as what I consider a pretty decent coach, nothing is more important than my teams and my girls. So if I felt that Coach Dunham could come in and take my group of girls to the next level, then I'm going to step away and say, hey, Dunham, I've set the groundwork. Go finish it off, right? So when you pose the question like that, I think the answer is of course. But when we look at it in terms of coach rotations, and I guess I'm still going to ultimately answer your question with yes, but I think there's so much that goes into a season, right? A team. And I can be with you for, let's say 2 years. So that's 4 seasons, right? Fall, spring, fall, spring. So we're together for 2 years. We have 4 seasons. And if hypothetical, if I took you over and we were Division 3, and then we win Division 3, then we draw Division 2, then we win Division 2, and then we win Division 1, right?
Back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, so we win 2 division, and so then all of a sudden I've grown this team from Division 3. We just won Division 1, and you're going to pull me off that team. That aspect of it feels wrong to me, right? That doesn't feel fair for the players and the coach, where clearly we're developing and we're getting better and things are working. Does that mean that you stepping in and taking over at that moment couldn't win more games or whatever? But I just feel like in that moment, in this particular instance, you have to give the current coach, the guy who has found that success, you have to give him an opportunity to continue that success.
And I clearly understand where you're coming from, but the key word that you said there was it's about their development.
Correct.
And while what you've been doing is working, and it could probably continue to work, what if another coach came in and now they're getting a new perspective? Just like you and I have different coaching styles, they're learning how to deal with different types of people. When they get over, they're going to have different bosses. They're going to have different managers. They're going to work with different employees. They're going to learn how people are different in leadership roles. They're going to learn how their delivery style is different, how they need to adapt to that. And when it comes to their player development, well, we've talked about how we're different in coaching styles, where you're focusing a lot on technical development. They got the ball at their feet. We're working moves, we're working feints, we're working, touches on the ball. And I'm more about, positional, possession, passing. Now they're getting two different styles of development that they're building their skills on.
I guess again, this is why people like these episodes because you and I are so different. But so you mentioned, they have to work for different bosses and they have to work for different. But if your boss is good and the company is going well and we're making money, the organization doesn't move on from the boss, right? The boss hangs on because the boss is getting results. And I know we don't like to focus on results, especially in the youth level, but the level that I think you and I are both our mind goes to when we talk about this conversation. I mean, I think you and I are both big believers in having academy coaches, and then you move on to, you know, club coaches or what. That's not the right terminology I want to use, but you know what I mean. But at that time, once I think there becomes that certain age, middle school level, and things like that, where, and maybe this is just me, like trying to keep my job, maybe right? But if the results are there, organizations don't fire the boss. So I know we're going to circle back to that moment when results aren't there, but I guess for me, to your argument is, could you come in and provide another level and things like that? Probably, but could also I bring you in alongside me, and where I'm still the boss, but now you're the general manager or you're the assistant to the general manager or whatever it is, right? So if again, I just go back to how you propose this, where if the boss isn't getting results, but I am getting results in this scenario, right? So we are progressing. We have moved up. So why are we going to cut my legs out from underneath me and all of a sudden say, all right, you did really good, so we're going to give it to somebody else?
I hear what you're saying, but my view of this has nothing to do with, Coach, you're not getting it done, we're going to let you go, or you're not getting them results. I'm looking at it as a club, it should be a clear understanding that everyone is going to be with their team for the next 2 years. That's 4 seasons. And after those 2 years, every single coach in that club is going to get rotated to another club or to another team. You could go from a U10, you could go up to a U16. You go from U16 down to academy. You go from academy back up to U12, or whatever it may be. It's not about focusing on the results. It's about their development. And part of that development, think about it in school. Do you have the same teacher all day through school once you get through middle school and high school? Even elementary, I don't think is the same teacher the entire day. They're already getting different perspectives of learning and teaching methods in school. Why would that be any different when you go to the soccer field? And I've got Coach Hamilton all through academy. And then from U10, I had Coach Dunham. And then at U12, I had Coach Smith. And U14, I had Coach Johnson. And every single coach focused on something a little bit different. And I got to see different details of the game. And that's where I'm at. It has nothing to do with you're not getting the job done, because if you're not getting the job done, the club may be letting you go. But if you are getting the job done, why not go to another team and expand their knowledge?
All right. So again, love this argument. So if I guess here's my, and this isn't a great argument, and I'm aware of that, but if I come into a club and knowing that, hey, 2 years we're rotating, 2 years you're rotating, right? Then fine, great. You know what you're signing up for. Mm-hmm. That's not what we signed up for in our club, which take that good or bad. But, in our club, that rotation doesn't happen. I know it's been talked about.
Mhm.
I know we've discussed it, but for me, especially with my older group, I've been with them for many years now. And I mean, coach, been with them for many years, and we just had our first undefeated season, and we've won some tournaments, we've won some divisions before, but it was the first time that like we rocked it, right?
Let me ask you a question on that. How many years have you been with that
Oh
specific
boy,
team?
it has
We're going
been
5 years.
yeah.
How many of those players?
Oh, one.
Exactly. So you're not even with the same team from 5 years ago. So that's kind of where I'm at. We're putting a. I don't
I
want to
said
say.
one. I think the looking at the picture now.
I don't want to
It's
say you have an emotional attachment to those
Oh
players.
no,
Which
I 100%.
that's a part of it.
Yeah.
And you've grown. You've built relationships. Is what I'm getting at. You've built relationships with the players from season to season, and with the parents from season to season. But we're not there for the parents. And we're not there to have a lifelong relationship with those players.
I disagree with that.
Let's be honest
I
here.
just
In
disagree
20
with
years, how many of those players are you going to be in contact with?
I hope
0.
but what if I am still in contact with 2 or 3 of them? How big is that to you as a person and as a coach that hey, that guy coached me for I mean, we look at it, if you look at okay, so club wise, you're correct. But high school wise, you coached a lot of girls for a lot of years.
Sure. 4 years only.
But you can't tell me you're not still in contact with none of those players.
I mean, I see them in social media, but as far as a relationship beyond that, no.
I just that just hurts my heart. I can't picture myself not.
Well, let me ask you this. As a teacher, why aren't you following your third graders all the way through high school?
But I do.
No, you don't. You're not teaching them every single year from here on out.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant just following as a human being.
No, yeah, I'm
well,
a coach and a teacher. You're kind of the same thing. It's the same situation.
Well, this was my second point that I wanted to bring back up to you. There is research that, especially through the elementary years, it's called looping, where I would start with kindergarten and I would run with that group through 5th grade. And then you start back at kindergarten and you would run with that group through 5th grade. And so, there's research for and against, just like I'm sure there's research for coaching rotations for and against. So, I don't think, the education system and the soccer system, although both completely different, also both probably out of whack, but I just feel like, and I get your point and I've seen it with you, especially this past 6 months or so, where you kind of stepped away from that head coaching role and you helped me out and you're helping out some other teams in our club. Like I've seen it from your perspective where you show up to training and it's like, oh shit, Dunham's here. We don't really know what he wants, right? I don't even know if you know this, but I met one of your 09 players for the first time last Tuesday night because you were running a finishing drill, which, by the way, don't let me forget I have questions about.
No, sure.
It was a great drill, but I didn't stay a long time because it was really cold and I just wanted to go home. So I was watching your training and there was a moment where, and again, this is just adding to your argument, but there's a moment where you wanted the wing was playing a give and go. The wing was playing a wall pass with, your center mid or whoever it was, right?
Right.
And you wanted off the go, so the give, so now off the go, you wanted your wing to start driving toward the center back, right? You wanted her to receive the ball, you wanted her to drive to the center back. You had run a couple what's the word? Rotations through, sequences through, and and I could tell that they weren't getting that from you.
They weren't.
So you were working with the right side. So if we're looking at the field, you're working with the right side because they were up next. So I walked over to the left side, go girl, the wing, and I met her for the first time. So, and actually, it was funny enough. She was like, "Are you Charlie?" And I was like, "Yeah." And her younger sister is on my team.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on my 11s. So we knew each other, and we were like, "Hey, do you want to make him happy and not have him yell at you?" She was like, "Yes, please." And I was like, he wants you to receive this ball and drive toward those two cones. And it was the first time in her mind that she was like, oh, I get it. And then I looked at the center mid and I was like, hey, stop playing the ball. Stop giving the go so far out wide. Like it was too heavy of a ball.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to lead them into that drive. And I think that's what you're getting at. But in that moment, that different voice did help.
Sure.
But how much of that different voice do you think, like, if they had been with you for a while, they would have known
Sure. It takes time.
Repetition,
Yeah.
wanted? Yeah, and so
Right.
I don't know. I just think that I keep going back to if we're developing, if I'm getting the job done, and I'm not talking about results because trust me, in my seasons with the 2011s, we had some seasons where
Yeah.
things did not go our way,
Yeah,
right?
we've all been there.
But the results are starting to come, and we are doing some things better. And I don't know. I just think when it comes to coaching rotations, as a coach, you have to be proud enough to say, I've taken this team to its limit and I need help to get them to the next level.
Right.
And so that, I don't know, that's why, and maybe, I don't know, I feel like the coaches that I work with, you and everybody else that we work with, I feel like are proud enough to say, hey, I got this team to where I needed it to go. Somebody else come take them to the next level. I know there's clubs like that are not like that in around us and things like that, but I don't know if it's. I guess again, this is a long-winded way to just say if it's not broken, why are we going to try and fix it?
And I hear what you're saying, but what if we've talked about where half your team is you don't a training session, half your team is nailing it, half the team's like I just don't get it.
This is not where I thought you were going to go, but go ahead.
What if the coach doesn't know how to explain that, and the players are getting frustrated? You're playing games, the parents are getting frustrated, and the next season it comes, spring season comes up. The parents are like, oh my god, we're getting Coach K back. Oh, what are we going to do about this? Well, if you don't have a coach rotation, you're going to end up losing players.
Yeah.
Because if you're a small club like we're dealing with, they can't afford to lose that coach. Now, if you do have these coach rotations, they can say, all right, hey, look, he's part of a coach rotation. We're teaching him as he's going along. I know it's a learning curve, but here, in the fall, you're going to get Coach Hamilton. He's an experienced coach. Just bear with us. Stick with the program. We're coaching him on the side. We're evaluating him. My point is, the coach rotations, it allows other teams to experience the really good coaches and allows other teams to allow coaches to learn on the go. Now, we all don't want to hear, well, I don't want a guy that's going to learn on the go. Well, you get bosses that learn on the go. You get teachers that learn on the go. Sometimes you get guys come in that are brand new that they're on it from the get-go.
Right.
And if we have a little bit of patience and let them do their thing, they'll get there. Yeah. And that's another part of that coach rotation is that rotation gives them an opportunity to learn in different environments. Because when you go from teaching an academy to teaching a middle school, that's very different, maturity levels that you're dealing with there. And so now we're not just developing the players, we're developing our coaches. And that in itself is making your club stronger over time. I hear what you're saying. You've got relationships that are built, and relationships mean a ton to you and really to every coach. It was hard for me to walk away from my son's team. I have built a relationship with many of those players over the last 3.5 years. And I think where I'm at is as a club that wants to move to be bigger and better, is when every team experiences good coaches and coaches that are learning, I think that's another part of that cognitive level of, all right, he's human. He's learning. Hey, we didn't have a good day last week. We're going to have a better day this time. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't think having the same coach there because of those relationships is the reason. The reason is their development and the coach's development. And that's kind of where my perspective is. It's about developing the players and the coaches to be better, because all in all that will make your club bigger and stronger.
So I want to cycle back to where you and I started this conversation this evening off camera, in that moment when we were both like, okay, stop. Because we were going to record something completely different.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we were like, okay, stop. Let's just go record this. So I mean, well, I'll just put it out there. And if my teams are listening, sorry. But also not sorry, because this is what is happening.
You got to be straightforward about something. Yep.
I had, especially over this past winter training, I've become frustrated with some attendance things, right? And I know winter training is optional, and in this past training on Tuesday night, I had 30 of 33 players at training. So like on Tuesday, it wasn't an issue, right?
Right.
But Tuesday was the outlier. Normally in winter training, I'm forced to combine practices because of numbers, right? So I coach 2 teams. Normally I get 2 hours back to back, and a lot of the time I have to combine because of the numbers, right? And I know it's winter training, and I know we are, we're competing with volleyball, and we're competing with other winter sports. And so I get that. I understand that. And you and I have done our multi-sport episode before, so we both know there. But it was when the thing that you brought up in that moment, when I was, for lack of a better term, whining to you about attendance.
Yeah, you're expressing your frustrations.
You looked at me and said, this is why I want coaching rotations. And it was the first time that I was just like, man, he's probably right on that. Because as much as development as we have, and I mentioned my 11s a lot, my 12s have done a decent job, where, from when I took them over, and they were getting beat literally 19-0 in tournament games, versus where we are now. Like, there is some great development. But I want to turn it over to you, because I think this is your biggest argument, at least to a guy who is dug in his heels on against coaching rotations. I think this is your biggest argument for just that competition at spots on the team.
Well, the one thing that we've talked about off camera was sometimes you got to make the players and the parents uncomfortable. And the best way for that to happen is a brand new coach. They have no idea. My son's team that I stepped away from has a brand new, actually, they have 2 new coaches. Yeah. They have the new head coach, the new assistant coach. Guys, they have no idea who these guys are. And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from my son is everyone's coming into practice not knowing what to expect, because they're learning a new style. They're learning a new human being and the type of person that he is, the 2 gentlemen that are coaching them. And now everyone's a little uncomfortable about, oh, is my starting position in jeopardy? What position am I playing now? Is our formation going to change? If I miss practice one week, is that going to affect my playing time? Right. And now the parents are looking at things a little bit differently. Where we've got a new guy, we had a guy there for 3.5 years, and he did a great job. That the players, they won their division, and
We knew what to expect.
we knew what to expect every year. He's going to push them and push them. He's going to make them better. Well, now we've got new guys. What are they going to be like? Do I need to keep an eye on them? Are they going to be a problem, or are they going to push them just as hard? You know, now the atmosphere, the vibe needs to be rebuilt. They're still going to practice and developing. They're still going to practice in training. They're still going to practice and putting in effort. But now their comfortability of joking with the coach or having conversations with the coach. Can the parents afford to miss a practice because they're not sure how the coach is going to, how that's going to affect their playing time or their game time situations? And that's kind of where I'm at here. My whole thing about coaching is we're developing. And sometimes you've got to make a player uncomfortable to be comfortable. And that includes the parents. They need to be uncomfortable to become comfortable when it comes to having a new coach there. I'm all for building relationships. In fact, part of coaching is developing the relationship with the skills of that sport that you're coaching. And I just don't know that relationship has to be lifelong. I think we both have had players come and go. We've had players leave that really hit us in the heart. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm losing TJ. TJ's moving to New York. Are you serious? But we can't hang on to that because our number one objective is development, making that player better. Because if I'm not here, because if I move away from my full-time job, well, now I've lost that relationship. So the relationship should come second. It's the development. And that's my standpoint on the coach rotation. It's all about the development. It's not about the comfortability. It's not about the relationships. You're developing players to be better than what they were before.
I mean, I think that's where you and I biggest roadblock is, for lack of a better term. I think you and I are flipped on that.
Yeah.
I think for me, it is about the relationships.
Yeah.
And the development is second, right? And so I can build relationships, and I mean, we don't have a lot of time left, but like my argument would be, if I'm trying to develop a player who doesn't want to play for me, then I've already lost, right? If I'm trying to develop a player who already has a negative impact or a negative thought about our team, then it doesn't matter how good of a coach I am. That player is already checked out, and they're not going to listen to what we have to say. They're not going to listen to the team motto, the team camaraderie, things like that, because they already don't have that relationship with me. Whether I cut them in the past, or they're not a starter, or whatever it is. And we're going to do a whole episode on knowing your role. So I think that's going to be a great follow-up to what we just talked about here. But for me, I'm not the opposite. I think you and I both, if you said 1 and 2, we are both relationships and development, and just you and I have flipped our 1 and 2 in that scenario. And so I just think that, I mean, again, we've said a lot of times, and I don't know how else to put it, but you and I are opposite in this scenario. And I think this, again, we opened this episode, or the past Friday Footy Talk, talking about what makes us work well together. And I think this is one of those issues where your focus is on the development, right? Hey, I don't care if this player likes me. I don't care if, I'm going to make them the best player ever.
Mm-hmm.
My thought process behind that is, hey, I need this player to like me so I can develop, right? And so I don't think either way is incorrect.
Yeah, right.
Again, I think it makes us what made us such a good team as, when we work together at the high school level. And I think it's what's going to make us a fun team this spring as well.
Coach, great conversation. I love that we had this episode here. It describes how we as humans see things very differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we all had the same goal, making you better, teaching you life skills, wherever it may be. Thanks for joining us. We are the Ace Football Academy. I am Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. Go kick some ace.